So there will be job displacement. I'm not going to deny it. And I think some parts of the industry, especially in the GTM part of the world that we inhabit from a sales process perspective, there will be job displacements. So if you are an account analyst or an SDR who is very good at research and analyzing and putting together information for an account, you will find AI helping you initially. And at some point of time, AI agents might summarize the whole thing. And you're like, I don't need 10 SDRs for this. Maybe 4 SDRs can do the work that 10 SDRs are doing. I believe that kind of displacement will happen in the near term.
Welcome to AI to Z. Hosted by AirSwift's data science Donny, we delve into artificial intelligence, health tech, and more. Tune in and journey with us into the future.
Well, the legend, the man himself, RV, I'm very excited to have you on today and share some of your subject matter expertise and how, technology is really changing the way, sales professionals do their job, see their job, and, what the future holds. I think a great place to start. Well, why don't we tell the audience a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the pod, Anand. So glad to be here. My name is Arvinder Gujral, but everybody in the industry calls me RV for short. It's a legacy of me living in California and working and selling in the US for many years, where they were scared of mispronouncing my name, and I shortened it out so that I get to the meat of the matter, and the conversation is about me selling the product or service that I was selling and not focusing on my name that much. So, but yeah, so I've been being around doing this for about 25 plus years now, post school in India, and lived in India, California, then back in India, then now Singapore for 7+ years. So been around the beat, and yeah, happy to be on the pod.
Absolutely. And I would love to hear, your insights on how you see, to the sales industry changing, and how, we've heard a lot of amazing buzzwords, AI, ChatGPT, generative AI, all these different, I guess, cool things to say, but it's very interesting. I would love to hear your perspective of how, it's absolutely changing some of the areas that you see that in the market now.
So, obviously AI is the buzzword. I mean, even if you're a stock investor or not, you really need to pay attention to what AI can do to various kinds of industries. And I truly believe in the revolution that AI will bring. I think it's one of those seismic changes, fundamental changes that, technology waves that you've seen. Internet itself was a big seismic change that we've all went through. Then you have the, Web 1.0 era, then you have the cloud era and the mobile era and the smartphone. And now I think, that's what AI can do now in terms of, and it's not just one vertical or one use case. We are seeing massive deployments between various verticals and various use cases. Obviously, while we are very, very early in the innings on AI and the ROI, and people are really already questioning on the ROI of the spend, about $200 billion have been invested in AI. I saw the note from Sequoia, it was, I believe, who said, for that $200 billion to be worth, you need to create $600 billion worth of revenue. So it's a 3x multiple on revenue on the investment that's already gone into AI infrastructure and apps and people, etc. And the largest AI company in the world, apart from the infrastructure providers like NVIDIA, the application layer is, OpenAI, and they are about a $3 billion run rate. So there's a long gap between the money that's already gone in versus the money, then the ROI that, investors are already seeing. And people are already asking questions whether this is real or not, and how much hype is there, right? Obviously, everything will look very clear to us in hindsight when we look back 10 years from now. When I look back at this moment, like what happened in 2023 and 2024, I do believe that yes, there will be a hype cycle which comes across with any new wave in the tech world. But I believe this hype will fructify into something real across multiple layers of this. So when I say layers, you're talking about the fundamental layer of the infrastructure layer, you're talking about the data layer, the model layer, but I still call all of them very fundamental basics, the pipe of AI. The next thing on top of that is the application layer, which I'm actually most excited about, which is the use case, because that's where you actually monetize AI, right? You don't monetize your electricity grid anymore. It is the refrigerator that's just on the electricity grid that it gets monetization. So the value market cap of a Samsung providing, refrigerators and microwaves is higher than, electricity grid providers. This will also apply to AI at some point of time, and it's applied to, our Web 1.0 darling, like Cisco. And I've seen those, I'm sure we've all seen those graphs where Cisco's market cap and in the early 2000s was what NVIDIA graph today is on the stock market. And at some point of time, that your margin is my opportunity, Jeff Bezos very famously said. And Nvidia is enjoying a monopolistic market right now. And so it will be competed away at some point of time. You cannot sustain this because, your margin is my opportunity. And so then where is the innovation going to come from? It's going to come from use cases, but that's where the revenue actually lies. That's where people are going to pay for something that is valuable to them, right? So if you apply that to our world and go to market, right? Like, how does AI impact our GTM world? We already seen it apply. Like, if you go on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a big source of, lead funnel generation for a lot of companies, especially those focusing on enterprise. If you're a more SMB focused company, you will rely a lot on paid marketing, be it Google or Facebook or anything else. And even just to write a copy for that, now there are so many tools that can give you so many more options to test out and do an A/B test analysis and see which is the highest conversion rate, right, of your spend. So you can quickly justify your ROI. You no longer have to wait for one human to write 4 copies for you to do an A/B analysis. You can have an AI write 100 copies. You can actually have AI optimize the spend on the platform, and you can see which one is getting the most clicks, which one is getting the most qualified clicks, which of those qualified clicks are moving to a sales accepted lead down the funnel. And, it sounds futuristic, but, if I plant somebody from 1924 into 2024, they will feel everything that, the wildest science fiction book written in that year will feel tame in today's world, right? So, I do believe that the shift is happening. Now, you asked about, human interaction between AI and, how this becomes real. I think this is where it's going to be, those things are yet to be figured out, right? For instance, I invested in a company called Humantic AI. Now, Humantic AI is based out of India, and they're basically focusing on, buyer intelligence. So instead of writing a cold email to an Arvinder without really knowing much, you can use an AI tool to know a lot about RV from my activities on the internet and write a very custom email or a LinkedIn outreach to me in the language in which I like to receive information. So the chance of me opening the damn invite and then responding to it increases, right? So this erstwhile would be done by an SDR or a BDR who would have to go and spend a couple of hours reading about every blog I've written, going on YouTube videos where I've been interviewed in the past, digesting that information, putting it together, and then writing in some fashion that will make me write back and acknowledge that email or a LinkedIn. Now you're saving a lot of time for that human resource to do that because you have an AI that can do it for you, right? You have Clary that does your revenue intelligence. Then you have Zoom Info and HubSpot that does account intelligence. My last company I worked at, Vati, Gong, we do conversational intelligence. So when you apply, it's being applied to every facet of your GTM layer, right? I already spoke about from a GTM perspective, from a lead gen perspective, like how you're applying AI to create better ad copies, how to better video copies, better image qualities. And, you can create multiple versions of this. The minute you have so many optionalities, where it becomes real is at the end of the day, and this is my firm belief, and I'm, happy to have a conversation with, thought leaders in the space. End of the day, humans buy from humans. Machines are not buying from a machine. And I think that truth will not dissolve because you are not going to outsource responsibility to a machine. So for instance, if, I'm selling a conversation cloud package to a large enterprise, right? And you, Donnie, are the buyer. It won't be like my AI agents are going to talk to Donnie's AI agents and come to some kind of an agreement. And, there will be an agreement, an NDA sent, which the agent will sign on your behalf. Then an agreement will be sent that your agent will sign on your behalf. And, the world is hunky-dory. I don't see that happening, at least in the next few years. I don't know. I cannot predict the future. But the reason I say that is because you will want to hold someone accountable on the clients and the vendor side saying, you know what, I bought it from you. Arvi, the human being, you are responsible for delivering that value that you had promised me in the process when we decided. And as long as you're going to hold a human responsible, you will buy from a human. The minute a human comes into the being. So where I see AI playing a really good role is optimizing my time to do more of high-end value work. I don't need to spend, half a day researching everything about Donnie. I can have an agent do it for me. But end of the day, Donnie and I need to talk, right? And the other thing that cannot be done today, at least today, it's only when you and I talk, and I am going to be asking you about your intent. Like, for instance, you will give me a problem statement, right? I will know what the problem statement is, and I'll say, here's my pitch. But that usually does not really fructify in a sale, because people don't buy on price usually. People lose on price, but they buy on value. The only way I can clarify value to you is if I have done multiple clicks on your problem statement. You're not buying a conversation cloud product just because you need a conversation cloud product. There could be another reason why you're buying it. Reason could be there is a AGM, annual general meeting happening, and your CEO wants something to talk about. There is a press analyst meet happening, and you need something to talk about in a press conference. Maybe there is a cost pressure, and you need to remove an expensive product with something less expensive, and maybe gross margin is a factor. Maybe there's a revenue pressure, and the current tech stack is not allowing you to optimize on your top line, and so maybe you need something else. I need to talk to that, and that does not come out in first call. I cannot Google and find information. That can only happen with an iterative process of having multiple conversations with my buyer, right? AI can help me get to the buyer in a manner in which the buyer will respond. But at the end of the day, I will not need to have multiple conversations with you, have multiple disparate data points along with the first party data that you provided me verbally, and then connect the dots and summarize what I think should be the right pitch to you, and the value to you that you will end up, taking this conversation forward. It can sound like, Arvi, why can't AI do it? I still believe there is a human element of judgment involved. What I believe is important, because at the end of the day, you also apply factors to what I think is important for Donnie, what is not less important. And so that's how I'll craft my story and my pitch to you.
I also believe relationships are very important. When we're buying something, we want to listen to someone that has, multiple opinions, understands our problems, has a variety of different solutions to those problems. And I don't feel we can have those dynamic conversations with AI. At least on that, like you said, we might get there. I'm sure we will definitely try to get there. However, the human side, the relationship building, the ad hoc, requests, the on the fly and the OJT, these types of individual buckets, I think we just cannot, you cannot compete with, humans in that sense. And also it's the warmth, like you and me, we spoke months ago, we had a very awesome conversation. Here we are today. If you had a conversation with AI Donnie, it wouldn't have been memorable. It would have been a little bit more black and white, and you would be like, oh, that was interesting, and went about your merry way. We wouldn't be here today in that, extreme example. But, even for, talent acquisition, recruitment, there's all kinds of, products out there that are, claiming to be recruiters, at the palm of your hand, essentially. However, the screening, the questioning, absolutely understanding the why behind why someone is looking out, their motivations, you can't get that from a CV. You have to talk to people to get certain bits of information. I'm glad you brought that up because, people buy from people. And that absolutely made perfect sense. When you said it, I was just almost a light bulb moment where it's like, you know what? I completely agree with this. I couldn't really articulate my words as simply as you did. However, once you said it, it was like, yes, this is the overarching kind of theme that I kind of feel personally. I know people are going to disagree, and there will be thought leaders, like you said, that absolutely will. But, for where we're at now and where we are at society, we're not used to that type of interaction.
No, and I'm going to come from a bit of a left field here. But how boring would the world be if my agent is talking to your agent?
Oh,
What
100%.
kind of world are we living in? I mean, I don't want to be in that world.
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
where I'm sitting in my little bubble and on my some kind of a screen, and that's my existence in life. And my AI is doing all my work for me. I mean, then what is the value of RV in this universe that I've inhabited? I will live in for 30, 40, I mean, another 30, 40 years. So I don't want to be in that world where everything is done by AI. Yes, technology is there to make our life better. Technology is to reduce inefficiencies in the system. Absolutely given. And AI will do that. It will become in recruitment. It'll come in sales. It'll come in marketing. It'll come in manufacturing. It'll hit in product development, engineering. In every facet, there are parts of things that will be improved and made more efficient with AI, which will mean, and I do believe there will be job displacement. 100%. Every wave has had job displacements. When the car came, people who were focusing on buggies lost their jobs, right? I mean, but it created jobs for the other side, those who were manufacturing automobiles, right? So every seismic technology shift will have job displacement, and it'll happen with AI. The question is, are you going to be embracing the change that is coming, or are you going to be a naysayer and, put your, dig your face under the sand and say, no, it's not going to happen? While I say humans buy from humans, the work that we humans are doing are getting elevated every decade, right? Like the kind of work that a recruiter would have done 20 years ago is very different. The way your day in the life of a recruiter is very different 20 years ago to what Tony does every day. A day in life of a chief revenue officer like me is very different today what it was 20 years ago, right? We do very different things. The job doesn't even look the same today. Yes, the KPI is still the same. Are we get revenue? But the way I get it today, the way I approach my clients, my prospects, how I qualify my leads, how I generate those leads, that entire thing has changed, right? And it'll keep evolving. You cannot deny evolution because that's the whole point of living. And so I truly believe that while that evolution will happen, for me, the most important thing, especially in a business to business perspective, is responsibility. Everybody wants someone responsible for their product and service that they are giving to them. You will never go and make a machine or an AI agent or a co-pilot responsible for that decision. A human has to be responsible for that decision, both at the buyer end and at the seller end. Because at the end of the day, if there's arbitration, you're not going to take an AI agent to court. I'll take Donnie to court, or I'll take your company to court, right? And because it is going to be a human who will be responsible, who is promising the product and service, and another human on the other end who's buying that product and service. Because you have two humans involved in this chain, you will always have humans leading this conversation. You could be aided by AI, you can be supported by AI, you can be made more efficient by AI, but you will have humans in. And again, because I'm pretty old, I truly believe this, but I do want humans involved in this because I think it makes life a lot more interesting.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think, one of the, I guess, themes that people kind of forget about technology, it has always been there to help, ease. It hasn't been something to replace. And, I know we've seen all the movies, like you said, the fiction novels, from the 1920s, we've seen how that, kind of plays out, shall we say. And that's not really the goal and the mission here. And I think some people are blurring, reality with, fiction in that sense, because that's what we think of. We think of robots doing all kinds of things for us, but it's really a tool to make us more better, more effective, and essentially reprioritize, what we're looking to do. You said something that was very interesting to me, and it's actually a topic I was hoping you were going to speak about, which was job displacement. How the market is changing, and how I'm curious of how you see future sales people, or account managers. How do you see their role changing in probably the next 5 years? Obviously, with the thoughts of AI in mind.
So there will be job displacement. I'm not going to deny it, and I think some parts of the industry, especially in the GTM part of the world that we inhabit from a sales process perspective, there will be job displacements. So if you are an account analyst or an SDR who is very good at research and analyzing and putting together information for an account, you will find AI helping you initially. And at some point of time, AI agents might summarize the whole thing, and you might like, I don't need 10 SDRs for this. Maybe 4 SDRs can do the work that 10 SDRs are doing. I believe that kind of displacement will happen in the near term. I do not know long term, and I will never be a fool to predict long term what's going to happen, because if I knew long term, I would have invested in
You would be
Nvidia
here
stocks
right
3
now.
years ago.
Yeah.
I will never attempt to predict the future. But what I can see near term is, yes, there will be job displacement in the sales org, because you will need less number of people to do the same thing that you were doing yesterday with. That's there. And hence, are you one of those SDRs and BDRs and AEs and account managers who are adopting and learning from AI and using it on a day-to-day basis to improve the work that you're doing, the output, the value of the output that you're doing on a daily basis to your manager, and saying, you know what, I'm 25% better this month than I was last month because I've used these two tools, right? If you are that person, I think your manager will not be letting go of you. But if you are the person who has never touched this technology and you're still working and doing the account research the way you've been doing for the last 5-6 years, so when people come and say, you know what, why do we need so many people in the SDR team? well, you will find yourself on the short end of the stick. So you have to get ahead of the curve. You have to unlearn a few things that you've done and adapt a few more habits, which may include learning new tools that you never thought you would need to learn. So that job displacement is real, Donnie, unfortunately, and it will happen across every level. It's not just SDR, BDR at the lower level. Because when you do this, when you look at the entire pyramid of the org, you have one chief revenue officer, you have many VPs of X, Y, and Z, then you have sales heads, then you have account teams within that, you have account managers, account executives, and SDR, BDRs, and you have the marketing org to fuel all the leads to them. Within the marketing org, you have levels. When I look at reports, you know what? Oh, this fintech in Europe reduced their call center burden by 40%. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, why can't I do it in my sales org? Can I reduce the sales org by X% and still hit the same revenue number? That's a question most CROs are asking themselves, right? Most CROs are fearful about reducing the workforce, because every time you reduce a headcount, you're reducing the quota in the team. And then like, suppose I reduce the headcount of one AE, and that AE's quota was $1 million for the quarter, then I will distribute the million quotas across the other AEs. They are suddenly getting more burdened. And then I say, but I'm assuming that 250K extra on your shoulders is 25% more efficiency through AI. You can do more. Then I do that. What you're talking is great in theory. I'm still not able to figure it out. And this is where when I said in the very beginning that a $200 billion investment in AI has already got in, but the largest application AI company is running, having a run rate of less than $5 billion. You like, is it real yet? Right now, what I believe, there's a lot of experiments going on. Lots of experiments. There are, I think, 1,000 AI companies for every small use case you can think of, right? Which is actually how evolution happens. So I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. It is the natural part of progress. Like, you see a new thing, a lot of people will jump in, a lot of people will tackle the same problem at the same point from a different perspective. And after a few years, you'll see that 95% of them are gone. 2 or 3 of them are winners. And that's what's going to happen with AI as well. So you'll see a lot of glut happening. I mean, there are so many companies focusing on the lead qualification, lead research, sales roles, BDR roles, account. They're like, you can replace it. There are co-pilots saying you don't need lawyers anymore. They're co-pilots for everything right now, right? You can think of. And I'm like, it's great people are experimenting, because that's the whole point. You're a startup, you're trying to solve problems, you're trying to, push the boundaries. How many of them will remain because they are actually creating real value and have a, strength to stay in the market long term to prove the value? We will see. I'm sitting on the fence that majority of them will go away, which happens with every wave. But a few of them will actually show where rubber meets the road, and there is a use case and a value creation that they're doing in the market. And in a few years from now, we will have more clarity on what part of the sales machine every organization has, and what percentage efficiency gains are real versus theoretical.
True. Yeah, very true. But also, there's a few things that were very interesting. Your storytelling ability, I love. The people that are working in these roles now, the people that do have experience, it is about adapting or overcoming. ChatGPT can write CVs now. It can, write job advertisements. The amount of job ads that I receive or from clients, for example, that they use ChatGPT to write their own job ads is quite crazy. But it's very far from a finished product. We're assuming that we're already there, and we're not there yet, because you can tell the prompting. You can even they sometimes even lazily copy the whole thing where it even says, "Are you happy with this outcome?" It's that's a human side of things, right? But we see it now, and the people that I honestly worry about are the people with no experience. The people that are starting off from scratch, and it might be a double-edged sword, which I'm keen to hear your thoughts on. It's one edge. They grew up with this kinds of technology, and they're used to using different apps, different kinds of technologies infused together. But how are roles going to change? How are they going to get that key experience to understand, like, my account management skills from day one in recruitment to 8 or 9 years in? Is it very different? And I'm worried about, that time in between that potentially, they might not get.
Mm-hmm. No, fair point. Like, end of the day, you can use, as I said, you can use AI to make your life more efficient, the process better. Like, I can use AI to rewrite my badly written resume, for instance, right? Which is great. But at the end of the day, I know my story. So the question is, when I really start speaking to you, Donnie, for a role, and you are quizzing me about my career, I have to speak to you as a human being and not just parrot what my resume, because you already read it. So your storytelling ability as a human cannot be replaced by AI. I mean, you may use AI to write a better story, but you still have to deliver the damn story, right?
Absolutely.
And I think in coming to your world, where it's the world of recruitment, yes, there are tools to help you write a better resume. There are tools to help you do a better outreach for new candidates, right? But at the end of the day, the candidate will have to speak to some headhunter at some point of time. And when that call happens virtually or in person, there is no AI involved. So it may help you write a resume that can help you get in front of more people. Yes. It can help a recruiter put an ad copy that can help that job ad get in front of more qualified candidates. Yes. But when the two people talk, it's two people, humans talking to each other, right? And I think that's where it gets real. And if you don't have the depth of what you have done in your life, then your AI written resume will look hollow.
Absolutely.
Because the minute I open my mouth and you will say, your resume is fantastic,
Where's this
but
guy
you are absolutely uninspiring. And you know what? Great resume, but not a great candidate, right? And you will start seeing this distance between resume and candidates very, very clearly, because everybody will have an amazing looking or very similar looking resume, because everybody's using the same AI tools to write resumes. So you're like, okay, now I have everybody's AI resume looking the same. They all look the same to me. It's very difficult for you to create a window between each resume from now. Like you get one job ad, 100 resumes, all are using a similar tool. They all look and feel the same words, few differences. And then you would have an AI tool saying, I will help you sift through the resumes and find the best one, right? Right. But end of the day, that again, we'll see if that AI tool can sift through the right resume to speed through the process. And instead of you interviewing 100 candidates, you interview just 10 who are the right ones. And you interview those 10 and you say, you know what, those 10 were really ridiculous. I don't want to talk to any of them again. So that you will never use that AI tool again. And so you'll go back to your own human eyes and judgment on what you think is the right candidate.
It's a very funny example you mentioned, because I actually have dealt with this recently, where one of the clients of ours, they kept on getting CVs that looked fantastic. Like on paper, these people were just a home run. And then they would speak to them, and almost like you said, it was like, who is this person on paper and who is this person in front of me? So now this, large MNC is now doing video recordings for their first round interview to pretty much, okay, this person we would want to shortlist. All right, now let's get them on a video call where they record themselves answering some of the kinds of questions that they would do, about themselves, what likes about the role, background experience, etc., and making sure that this person that looked good on paper is also the same person that looks good. AI is, as we mentioned, a double-edged sword. And now companies are combating some of the AI. People can use anything to, make themselves look fantastic. They can even use the JD, write me a CV based off of this job description that makes, makes me suitable for the position. And now we're seeing, kind of the reverse a little bit.
And it's going to happen in every field, from recruitment to sales because if I'm selling a product and service to a prospect, I'm going to make a very custom pitch using all the insights through AI. And like, amazing, we were built for your problem statement. And they're like, oh, really? Okay, awesome. Come, let me talk to you. And you get a pitch. And when you actually see the product, like,
execute.
The product is nothing like what you said to me in the first thing that we had. And that's, it's just the same thing. Human candidates are a productized human. Like in your world of recruitment, because you're hiring a human being, that's a product to be placed at some, customer's site. Same thing. I'm putting a software on your site for it to do a certain job description. And I think this is where I don't want people to forget lose the perspective of end of the day. Again, it comes to human talk. End of the day, a human will talk to a human to verify what an AI has helped enable you to do better and faster and more efficient, right? At least in the foreseeable future. I'm not saying this will remain forever, but again, what science fiction was written in the 1924 is nothing like what we are living our lives in 2024. That book was not written till the 1970s, 60s by Isaac Asimov. Because what he envisioned as the world would be in 2024, we are going to get there. But it was definitely not written in 1924. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next 20 years, 30 years from now. but it will not look like anything that you and I can see and as a linear graph where from our vantage point, whatever we are seeing, we will far exceed that, right? Far exceed it. And that's the beauty of it. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But there are all brave souls who are trying to experiment across the board using AI. Most of them will fail, but the few that succeed will create disproportionate value in the system, will capture disproportionate value in for themselves as well. And they will move the boundaries way ahead. And you and I can even sit here and imagine what an AI can do. But my conviction will remain the same. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. That end of the day, when it comes to sales, a human will buy from a human because the human wants to hold a human accountable for something. And that I'll be happy to be proven wrong with that belief, but that's where I stand.
That's your years of experience speaking. Now, I would love to, a bit on the the previous question that I asked. What is some of your advice, for people within the space and domain? Like you said, there are certain individuals that are doing the same thing the same way they've always done, and those are going to be people that are going to be left in the dust essentially. But there are people that are going to embrace technology, experiment, and essentially refine their own individual toolkit. What advice would you have for people that obviously does not want to be left behind, or maybe potentially that aren't the most tech savvy, or people that aren't from a technology background? I'm curious of maybe some tips or tools that maybe you would instill in them to ensure that they aren't left in the dust.
No, that for me is the most important thing of this conversation. So I'll give you my example, right? So I'm not the youngest person in any room I walk in nowadays, right? But the only thing that keeps me young is my sense of curiosity and just I want to know more. I'm a voracious consumer of information and data. I just love it. And while it might seem ridiculous, like you're reading random stuff on a daily basis on the internet, but where the magic happens is when these random things you read start connecting.
Yes,
and
exactly.
you connect like, oh, this thing and that thing and the third thing somehow together make more sense to me than they're on their own. And because you have done that unique connection, you have a unique insight to something. And that value that you bring to that conversation is very unique, and people will appreciate you for that. Now imagine you do that on a daily basis. Every time you walk into a room, you have something new and interesting to share inside your org, your team, your manager, your client, your partner. And they're like, this guy or this girl always comes in with something interesting for us. I really want to work with this person. And if you always are hungry for information and curious, and slightly smart, you don't have to be the smartest toolkit in the shed. But even if you just start having the habit of consuming the information, which may seem random and disparate, but your brain will start connecting the dots eventually, and you will make sense of it. So once you do that, you are more important to the org, the team, to the client than you were yesterday. So that's one. Secondly, coming to your own job, I believe I'm a very lazy person, but I do believe in the future and evolution. If my role is more, heading of organizations. But if I am not sitting and thinking, how do I redefine the entire org structure? Which parts of the value can I use AI to be more efficient, right? Hence, the same way, if you're starting out your career, or you're a mid-career person, and you're an AE or you're an SDR, what tools in AI can you use to automate some part of your daily work habit? So you know what you do on a daily basis. You know exactly what you do every day. Imagine you're doing 10 tasks a day, repetitive 10 tasks a day. Are there 2 tasks that you can use AI to make it faster and more efficient? Just start with that. Research your own task. Go and research it. How are different people doing it? There are people who are, tweeting about it already. There are LinkedIn threads about it as well. So go and read. There are people who are sharing this information. You don't have to go and redo the whole, reinvent the cycle, right? Be it recruitment, be it sales, be it whatever, marketing, be it law. There are people who are already sharing what they're doing, how they're making life more efficient. And I'm copying all of that. I'm bookmarking everything that I've read there, because I will be applying that to various parts of my organization. And so no matter how young or old you are, as long as you're curious and hungry to learn, because that cannot be taught to anyone. And if you're hungry and you're curious, you will make it happen. You will not be redundant. But if you're lethargic and you said, this is it, this is the end of the road for me, well, you will outdate yourself very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And I would say, one of the things that also resonates with you, or say radiates through you is energy, passion. You can absolutely bring a sense of enthusiasm into what you do. It doesn't matter. Relationships are important no matter where you are, whether you're a software engineer or, in a sales role, even if it's your colleagues, the people that you work with, and just being, someone that is a pleasure to be around, somebody that's a motivator, somebody that, is resilient, doesn't get shaken easily. There will be a place for those individuals. But if you can mix that with, like you said, curiosity, technology, and kind of fuse the two together, and that's where I think the future potentially of work is going to be. It's going to be really heavy on soft skills, but if you can mix that with the tangibles, it could be a very deadly combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you go to a party, you want to go to a corner that's extremely quiet and people are looking down at their toes, or you want to go to a corner where people are having a laugh, slapping each other in the back and sharing a joke. You will go to that corner. Even if you don't participate, you will actively go and listen because you want to know what's happening.
Gravitate. Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of a person are you in the party? Are you the life of the party? You don't always have to be the life of the party. But if you are the life of the party, you're indispensable, or you want to become part of that party, right? But if you are a group of 4 people looking at their toes on their phones,
this ain't my space.
If you're not be around with, you're going to have a tough time being around in the organization.
Absolutely. And I mean, the overarching theme is that 1, technology isn't going anywhere. 2, it's either you adapt or you get left behind. And then 3, you can look at yourself introspectively and try to see, it's a crawl, walk, run phase. It isn't like you're just going to all of a sudden, animate every single aspect of your job. But if you are curious and you do start somewhere, find something that potentially could do, it could really, be the first domino effect for that first, dot that starts connecting the individual pieces, like you said. And you might be more of a technologist than you ever dreamed, but you have to start somewhere.
Exactly. Take the first baby step. And you know what? Don't be afraid, even if you make mistakes, because you are still better off than 99.99% of people who haven't even attempted using AI for their job. So go for it.
The best is yet to come, as they say. Arvi, it is always an absolute pleasure. And I really appreciate your insights. And I can absolutely say that when we first met, it was exactly that corner where we were laughing and joking. Everybody else was, kind of on their phones. And here we are today. And I really appreciate your time, my friend. And I look forward to, hearing more about your journey and hopefully on some more future episodes.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on the AI to Z podcast with Data Science Donnie. If you found value in today's episode, consider following for more insightful STEM discussions. We'll be back with another deep dive. Until then.